From Phoenix, Arizona, home to the brand that's made golf easier for more than 60 years, it's Ping Academy Live 2022. Here's your host, Andrew Rice.
My next guest followed a path to Ping like so many of his colleagues. He combined his passion for golf with his love of engineering, leveraging those exceptional abilities to earn a coveted internship in Ping's engineering department. He soon rose to design engineer before assuming his current role of Director of Product Design. He's collaborated on 150 patents. When he's not busy unlocking ways to increase the moment of inertia of the next Ping driver, he's coaching youth basketball, hiking in Arizona, and spending time with his wife and 4 kids. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thanks, Andrew.
Ryan, you're in charge of leading new product design at Ping, a company that distinguishes itself as an engineering company. Fun, yes. Easy, not so much. How does Ping approach product development, and how do you keep getting better every year?
So we really focus on knowledge first. There's a lot of companies that look at just specifically designing products, but we know that if we can develop the knowledge first and let that feed into our product line, that it'll lead to better products overall. Now, when we look at how do we make them better, there's a couple different strategies. We want to have innovative leaps when they're there, like turbulators, when we've worked on our face wrap technology, but we also practice the idea of incremental gains. If we can improve in a lot of different areas in a lot of key ways, all those things add up to the summation of a good improvement. And that's what we've seen as a lot of improvements over time, and have key products that are better each time as we come to new launches.
I imagine there's a lot of trial and error during the process. But with Ping's extensive knowledge base and today's tools and technology, you're better able to predict performance. Assuming I'm correct, what resources are available to make that happen?
Yeah, so we're trying to root out the trial and error idea. That's an area where it can be really challenging and it can take a lot of time. And so the predictive capabilities today really help us propel into the future and come up with designs faster and get them to market. As far as different ideas, there's things that we can do on the computer and simulation. We work with FEA, the finite element analysis, where we can focus on stresses, durability. We have CFD, computational fluid dynamics, where we can look at the aerodynamics, the way that air flows over a club head. And then we transfer into a lot more of our key modeling and explore technologies. So we have models specifically on friction. We have models that help us look at impulse and momentum, understand how delivering a club can lead to better trajectory. And all those things really help us do this early prediction before we even start to prototype that can lead to better designs.
Interesting. Ryan, let's talk about iron design and development. It's the equipment category with the most segmentation for obvious reasons. I know Ping has the new I-59 and I-525 irons, which we'll discuss shortly, but give us an overview of Ping's iron lineup and where each one fits in the iron landscape, and who can benefit from each one.
Yeah, so by far the iron landscape is broad and diverse. There's a lot of different models there. There's not one iron that fits everybody. And so really our position, we look at doing precision and performance platforms. The precision focused with our blueprint design, I-59, I-210. There are designs that are really focused on distance and control, trajectory control, workability, versatility. This is our elite and avid player, lower handicap. From blueprint being our smallest design, really about that workability, ability to really hit all different types of shots. I-59 fitting right in the middle. It's more forgiving, a little bit bigger, a little bit more offset, but still a great tour iron and fitting that space. Before we jump into our performance designs, I-525, G425, GLE2, and our G710. On our performance line, it's really where we start to elevate the forgiveness as well as the distance element within those designs. And from I-525 being the smallest, that player's blade style, all the way up to G710, it's about game fulfillment, game enjoyment, helping players from mid to high handicap both hit it further, but also hit it more consistent and really elevate their performance.
Helping people play their best, I would
Absolutely.
imagine. Okay, the new I-525 iron is described as a player's distance iron. What exactly does that mean, and who is it for?
Yeah, so I think the simple way to describe I-525 and the player's distance iron is they want great feel, they want the workability of a blade, but they don't want to sacrifice on distance. And so really in that design, we try to champion the idea of how do we get as much ball speed, really target that for that better player that wants to really preserve the elements of a blade, really good feel, the workability, looks smaller at address, but also is not sacrificing, where they still hit that full club, they get that full maximized distance, and they're able to go out there and shoot low scores.
Ryan, your team put a lot of effort into improving the sound and feel of the i525. How did you do that, and why is it so important in this type of iron?
So with the player's blade category, there's definitely a high elevation of that need for good sound, and they want that pleasing impact experience. And so what we focused on was the predictive capabilities. We went on the front end and we used some of our modeling techniques to understand what is the acoustic signature of that design. And then we identified how can we improve it. And so specifically, we use an EVA polymer targeted on the back of the face, and that makes it have very consistent sound and impact experience, and a great improvement in i525.
You describe the iron as ballistic. Where does all its power and distance come from? I know it has a forged face, but what makes it so long?
Yeah, so that iron is all about a metalwood style construction. So we're actually welding in the face. It has all the characteristics that we utilize with a metalwood. And specifically, when we use that forged miraging steel material, it's extremely strong. It allows for a lot of deflection and return of energy to the ball. But internally, there's a lot of things that we construct similar to our drivers, with a very thin transition into the top rail and into the sole. We've actually worked on how do we continue to thin out regions in the transition areas. So specifically with its VFT design, we've gone ultra thin in the perimeter around the face, as well as a new technology in the design. It's an internal undercut that pulls a lot more stress deeper into the sole of the design, so you can get more flex. And that all adds up to getting more bending, more energy, and ultimately that ballistic nature.
That's so interesting. Every ping iron has some level of forgiveness, or it wouldn't be a ping iron. What's the forgiveness factor of the i525 iron, and how is that achieved?
So ping irons are absolutely a staple as forgiveness, and it's really hard to compare them to others because we're already elevated and so much higher than a lot of other irons that are out there on the market. But specifically, I think one of the great things when you look at it, it's more forgiving than its predecessor i500, and we're approaching into now where it's as forgiving as some of our G irons from 2 to 3 generations ago. And that forgiveness factor really shows. Another aspect, just beside the MOI, is the way that we've designed the face actually gets more ball speed around the face without using that from just moment of inertia. So elevating the ball speed is all about getting that preservation that you can have a heel hit or a toe shot, and it goes a similar distance to your center strike. And those things all add up to seeing more consistency, better distance control, and plays into that forgiveness factor.
You mentioned it's a player's style iron. Give us some insight into the effort that went into shaping the club. Top line, blade length, offset, sole width, things like that.
Yeah, so this product category and this golfer in general is looking for those blade attributes. And so with the player's blade, we're trying to do minimal offset. We're looking at making the top rail balanced in proportion to the overall size. With this design in particular, we took a lot of things from the i210 iron, which has been a very prominent design for us on tour, and matched up the overall sole width, the bounce profile, the top rail thickness. Other attributes like blade length, we kept closer and kind of in between where i500 was and now where we've built i525, that it's balancing out, getting really good proportions. And as I mentioned, when you're looking down at iron, you want to have to be pleasing at address. We've really dialed that in, that when you look down, you go, a 7 iron looks like a 7 iron blade. It has that right proportions, the overall blade length, sole width, top rail, offset. We've really honed that into a spot that is just building a lot of confidence when you look down at the club.
That is so important, the look of it. When you look at the iron, it's quite stunning. It's beautifully finished with a lot of fine machining detail and Ping's Hydraprol 2.0 finish. It's not just for aesthetics. Its finish is very functional, correct?
Absolutely. Hydraprol has been a great technology for us. We developed it really looking at the way that we can repel water. And during that impact, if you can remove water, debris, grass, as that moves out of there, you get a cleaner contact between the ball and the face. And specifically what that's allowing us to do is as you remove that water, you get a better contact. It retains its launch and spin characteristics, so that whether you're hitting in perfect shots in the fairway, if you're hitting from the rough and wet conditions, you can have better predictability of your distance control, how the ball is going to fly and land on the green, and ultimately score better.
And it really does make a difference. Let's shift gears to another technological breakthrough, the i59 iron. It has a very cool story that is disrupting the forged blade category. It starts with Alumicore technology, which influences performance in so many ways. First, Tell us what led your team to develop Alumicore, and second, what does it take to manufacture it? It looks very complex.
Yeah, so really what we were trying to target is how do we improve on our previous tour designs? So we had iBlade, we've had S55, two designs that were really mainstays, and we've had a lot of tour success. And specifically when we looked at Alumicore, what we identified was we had to remove a lot of material from the center of the club in order to get that perimeter weighting aspect in that smaller blade profile. And when it built into the manufacturing of the design, it's an extremely complex manufacturing technology. We first forged the design in a full cavity. We then add the Alumicore as a secondary piece that we die cast from ADC12 aluminum. Then we weld the face material in with both a swedging and welding step to really smush everything together and have that solid construction. That when you actually hit this iron, it feels like a full unibody single material piece design, even though it has all this technology packed inside.
Forged and forgiving aren't often used in the same sentence. What level of player is best suited for this iron? I'm guessing it's a broader audience than most golfers think.
Absolutely. So for how clean this iron looks and how small in the overall blade appearance, a lot of people think that it's really pegged for the best players in the world, which it is. We're utilizing that on tour. But it is as forgiving as our I-210 iron. It can fit from low handicap all the way up to mid handicap golfers really well. It's designed that you get that distance consistency and that forgiveness because of having so much perimeter weighting by removing all that material from the center of the club. That really just delivers on having players have forgiveness in a smaller design and makes it really unique in the market.
I would agree. The I-59 also introduced some new grooves, known as Micro Max. There's an average of 4 more grooves per club. Give us an overview why that is a good thing and what does it mean for the golfer?
So with Micro Max design, we tightened the spacing, which led to having more grooves on the face. And really what we found in our experiments was that we could lead to better consistency. So in long irons, we retain spin so that we see better consistent trajectory. And in our short irons, we actually see an elevation of spin and getting more spin so that you can have better predictability on the way that the club performs.
There's a common perception that forged irons feel better than cast clubs. While Ping doesn't necessarily subscribe to that theory in all cases, you did decide forging was the way to manufacture the I-59 iron. What led you down that path?
So when we started working on I-59, we identified a couple different pathways that we could pursue. And once we developed the Alumicore style, we knew that forging would be a good option. And we were able to make great feeling clubs, whether they're cast or forged. But specifically with this design, being able to forge in the internal cavity and then replace that with the Alumicore really lended itself to that construction style and allow us to tap into using forging for this design.
Wow, Ryan, that's really quite a lineup. Something for every golfer. Let's watch this video and learn a little bit more about the I-525 iron.
So I-525, we had a great mission. So specific in that iron, we wanted to look at the performance distance space, but deliver that in kind of our smallest iron and really that player's blade inspiration with distance. We wanted to really look at how do we deliver a better proportion set to the design from the longest iron all the way into the wedges. It's much more modeled off of I-210. So the amount of offset, the blade length, the top rail, all of those proportions have been brought into this design because we think it fits more aligned with the consumer. So it has that feel of kind of our larger precision design, but has the distance that you get out of our performance models and our distance-focused designs. There's elements of the structure, and we've focused on the face structure design, the internal undercut within the structure. All of those things help us get more face deflection, but doing it in a way that's very consistent. We talk about having ballistic ball speed, but having it done in a consistent fashion that shots around the face deliver more consistent results. You get the proper trajectory. You're not just delivering distance in a way that's not usable by the golfer. So enhancing the feel and impact experience with I-525 looked at our EVA polymer, its position, and the amount in the club head. And so every head is getting the consistent location and the disbursement amount and just overall mass. That makes it just consistent across every club, every set, every build, so that when you hit your longest iron to shortest iron, you get a much more consistent and cohesive impact experience. We've actually kept the lofts and preserved them to where they were with the original i500, which we think is in a great balance of delivering ball speed but also having the right trajectory. At the same time, we do have fitting offerings there. So we have our retrospect, which is actually taking loft and adding it to the design, as well as our power spect, where you can actually de-loft the clubs and develop that in a way that delivers the right trajectory, the right response that we want to see for golfers of all abilities, all swing styles, and the signature of their swing to get kind of the optimal fit for this set of irons. Forgiveness-wise, it's extremely forgiving. It's in our performance player space. It basically straddles in between where our i210 and where G425 fit in, but has the performance characteristics of our distance iron, but a lot of the key elements and shaping that we see with our precision irons. Specific on i525 as well, we have the Micromax grooves. And so what players will notice right away is more grooves on the face and more tightly spaced. Why they're there and why it delivers better performance is that groove geometry, as we move that from the long irons into the wedges, helps maintain spin, which is a great item on distance irons and really where we're packing in a lot of distance. And then going into the short irons is where we actually help reduce variation out of different conditions. So the type of shot that would lead to a flyer, this type of groove geometry helps minimize that effect and see more consistent distance to distance shots and better control of their distance.